Blinding flashes rip the night apart. Shells scream overhead, slamming into steel with bone-rattling blasts that rock the deck. Fires erupt across the superstructure, turning twisted metal orange. Smoke carries cordite, burning oil, and blood. A young loader on a 40mm gun, face blackened, hands raw, feeds rounds as shrapnel whips past. He drags a wounded crewman through the flames, blood pouring from his shattered jaw. This boy is 12 years old. By morning, survival would cost him everything. This is the true story of Calvin Graham, a 12-year-old Texan who lied his way into the U.S. Navy in 1942, becoming the youngest American to see combat in World War II. In the grim opening year of the Pacific Theater, when Japan's advance threatened to cut off Australia, this boy manned an anti-aircraft gun aboard the battleship USS South Dakota in one of the war's fiercest night engagements off Guadalcanal. You'll follow how raw patriotism drove a child into the inferno, where he fought to save shipmates under merciless fire. What followed exposed an irony few Americans noticed at the time. The same nation that condemned enemy use of young combatants quietly accepted its own underage volunteers in desperate hours. The decisive clash helped stall Japan's momentum at a critical moment. Mid-1942, the Pacific War balances on a razor's edge. Japan's sweeping victories have swallowed the Philippines, Malaya, and the Dutch East Indies. Allied lifelines stretch across thousands of miles of ocean. Australia faces imminent invasion threat. The Solomon Islands become the critical hinge. Guadalcanal's nearly finished Japanese airfield at Lunga Point, soon to be called Henderson Field, could dominate regional air routes and strangle reinforcement. U.S. intelligence detects the work in June. Admiral Ernest King insists on immediate counterstroke, overriding calls for caution. Operation Watchtower launches hastily. Scant reconnaissance, untested amphibious methods, troops largely fresh from training camps. The 1st Marine Division, 19,000 men, bears the load, screened by Task Force 62, including the powerful new battleship USS South Dakota, her heavy anti-aircraft suite vital against expected air attacks. Pacific distances impose merciless logistics. Chronic fuel shortages, limited ammunition, supply convoys vulnerable across empty sea. Both sides miscalculate. Japan believes America too weakened for offense. The U.S. underestimates Japanese willingness to pour resources into the island. Far above the engine rooms and plotting tables, a 12-year-old waits at his gun, still expecting adventure. If this moment matters to you, take a second to acknowledge it with a like. Back to the story. August 7th. Marines hit Guadalcanal and Tulagi, capturing the airfield almost unopposed. Japanese reaction is ferocious. Daily air raids, nightly destroyer runs, steady troop reinforcements sliding down the slot from Rabaul. The campaign settles into brutal attrition. Malaria, constant shelling, rations dwindling. By November, America escalates, committing major fleet units including South Dakota to protect the lodgment. Aboard her, among more than 2,000 crew, stands 12-year-old Seaman Calvin Graham, assigned loader on a 40mm mount high in the superstructure. He still believes war will be glory like the newsreels promised. He has no idea what waits in Iron Bottom Sound. Texas hardship forged him early. Father dead young, abusive stepfather, school abandoned by 7th grade for survival jobs. Pearl Harbor and lost cousins ignite resolve. In Houston, he borrows clothes, forges his mother's signature, fools recruiters. Boot camp instructors suspect, but drive suspected minors hardest. Graham ships out green, unaware the reality he craved is about to arrive in fire and steel. As we covered in Guadalcanal, the turning point few Americans ever hear about, This savage campaign became America's first major Pacific offensive, where exhausted forces finally began pushing Japan back. Yet aboard one Guardian battleship waited a hidden fragility, a child at a battle station, soon to face the full weight of total war. November 1942. USS South Dakota steams dark through Iron Bottom Sound as part of Admiral Willis Lee's Task Force 64. Radar detects Japanese contacts around midnight, November 14th. Battleship Hiei leading cruisers and destroyers on a mission to bombard Henderson Field and cover fresh troops. Intermittent rain squalls slash visibility. Tension tightens with every mile closed. General quarters rings out, doors dog shut, red battle lamps glow, feet pound steel ladders. Calvin Graham scrambles to his 40mm mount. Ammunition ready boxes stack beside him. Veterans steady the young loader as ranges drop. Japanese searchlights suddenly lance the darkness, pinning American ships in harsh white beams. The night explodes. Second Naval Battle of Guadalcanal ignites near 2300 hours. Lee's force, battleships Washington and South Dakota, 4 destroyers, engages Admiral Abe's bombardment group. Washington's radar-directed salvos quickly cripple Hiei. U.S. destroyers press ahead, draw devastating fire. 3 sink in minutes, the 4th crippled. Disaster strikes South Dakota. Electrical failure, traced to earlier damage, knocks out radar and internal communications. She plunges forward, isolated. Japanese warships converge. Hiei, Kirishima, cruisers, destroyers pour concentrated fire. At least 26 heavy hits, some records claim over 40, land in rapid succession. 14-inch shells tear into superstructure. 8-inch and smaller rounds rake exposed positions. Secondary batteries erupt in flames. Ready ammunition detonates. Graham's mount takes direct punishment. Shrapnel slashes his jaw, shatters teeth, sears skin. Blast concussion throws him down 3 decks. He lands hard amid twisted metal, blood filling his mouth. Timestamp rhythm, 23:17. First crippling strikes. Fires race topside. 23:22. Power blackout complete. Formation shattered. 23:30. Barrage intensifies. Impacts thunder relentlessly. 23:42. Captain maneuvers desperately. Flames rage unchecked. Graham, half-stunned, tastes iron and smoke. He thinks this is the end. Yet anti-aircraft guns keep firing. He claws his way back upward, ignores agony, hauls wounded shipmates below, rigs tourniquets from belts, fights fires with hoses. Crewmen notice the boy's refusal to quit. His secret age remains buried. South Dakota absorbs blows that would doom most ships. Armored vitals hold. And then, everything changed. USS Washington, unseen in the dark with radar intact, closes on Kirishima. In 9 minutes, she pumps 75 16-inch shells into the Japanese battleship. Kirishima mortally wounded. Hiei scuttled by her own crew. Japanese force breaks off. Bombardment canceled. The guns fall silent. Darkness swallows the sound again. South Dakota wallows in chaos. Decks run slick with fuel oil and blood. Passageways choke with acrid smoke. Damage control parties flood magazines. Battle spreading fires. Sickbay overflows under red lights. Burns, fractures, embedded steel. Final count, 39 dead, more than 60 wounded. Fallen, wrapped in blankets, await commitment to the deep. Graham, face grotesquely swollen, teeth gone, burns blistering, moves on raw instinct. He hefts stretchers, clears debris. Shock and adrenaline blunt the pain. Surviving speakers crackle orders. Secure from general quarters at first light, assess the carnage. Exhausted crewmen stare at their battered home, realizing how narrowly catastrophe was averted. For the youngest among them, childhood has ended in a single night of fire. If this story carries weight, mark it with a like, in memory of those who didn't walk away. Dawn, November 15th, brings stark clarity. Japan loses effective control of two capital ships. Planned reinforcement convoy turns back under air threat. Henderson Field remains operational. Marine lines hold. U.S. Navy pays heavy price. South Dakota limps away crippled, but inflicts disproportionate defeat. Japan's irreplaceable reservoir of ships and veteran crews begins irreversible drain. Aboard the battleship, survivors count small mercies. Propaganda later cloaks her as Battleship X to hide extent of damage. Unit commendation follows. Graham receives initial medical care en route stateside, stitches, dressings. Recommendations go forward for Bronze Star and Purple Heart. But the price of survival is only beginning to reveal itself. The naval battle of Guadalcanal reshapes the Pacific War. Japan's bombardment fails. Fresh ground troops face relentless air assault from intact Henderson Field. By February 1943, Japanese commanders order evacuation. Tens of thousands fled into the island since August, consumed by battle, malaria, starvation. Guadalcanal secured, America gains springboard for the Solomon Chain and eventual return to the Philippines. Strategically, initiative passes permanently. Combined with Midway's carrier losses, Japan's battleship strength now bleeds away. Commanders had misjudged American endurance, expecting withdrawal after early reverses. Guadalcanal also accelerates attrition of merchant shipping and irreplaceable air crews. By mid-1943, Japan shifts to defense, husbanding dwindling assets. The campaign exacts terrible U.S. cost. Thousands dead, dozens of ships, but forges the amphibious doctrine that will carry the war forward. For Calvin Graham, the battle was finished. The reckoning wasn't. South Dakota reaches New York for extensive repair. Crew greeted as heroes. Graham briefly goes AWOL to attend family funeral. His mother spots him in newsreels, informs the Navy. Age discovered. He is arrested, confined months in Marine brig, medals revoked, discharged without honor for fraudulent enlistment. Wounds earn no benefits. Heroism officially erased. The betrayal cuts deeper than shrapnel. He returns to civilian life, scarred physically and abandoned institutionally, forced to battle decades for recognition. Honorable discharge granted 1978 under President Carter. Most decorations restored over time. Purple Heart finally presented posthumously in 1994. If preserving real history matters to you, consider subscribing. These stories don't survive on their own. Calvin Graham was never alone. After Pearl Harbor, recruiters, desperate for manpower, routinely overlooked questionable ages. Thousands of underage boys slipped into uniform. The rapidly expanding Navy needed every hand. Graham's case surfaced only after the crisis passed, when a mother's report made him expendable. Total war tested principles on all sides. The United States accepted youthful volunteers while criticizing similar practices elsewhere. Decorations were withdrawn not for poor performance, but to spare official embarrassment. In 1942 alone, the Navy processed over 4 million enlistments. Verifying every age was impossible and often ignored. America's youngest decorated combat veteran, wounded while saving others in a battle that helped turn the Pacific tide, spent years punished by his own service for wanting to fight. He later said the night off Guadalcanal aged me. Fire and blood ending childhood in hours. If someone in your family served, or you know where they were during the war, share it below. His story stands as quiet evidence of war's true reach. When nations demand everything, no one is spared. Dawn creeps over Iron Bottom Sound, November 15, 1942. The battered USS South Dakota turned south, her survivors carrying wounds seen and unseen. Among them, a 12-year-old who faced the storm and helped others live, now marked forever. Calvin Graham's war brought no immediate glory, only delayed justice and lifelong scars. But what happened when the fight shifted from sea to jungle, when Marines defended a muddy airfield against everything Japan could throw at them? Next, the desperate ground battle that finally broke Japan's advance.